Okay, Pokeball. I know this is gaining popularity. I've had it a couple times, I've never made it, so this is the first attempt. And I think Porgy is a good candidate for this dish because it's a white fish that's pretty fatty. It's pretty high fat content. I don't think a fluke Pokeball will work nearly as well. I fillet this fish, obviously, and wrap the fillets in paper towels. And this is day 3 after I caught the fish. If you use paper towels to soak up all the moisture, the fillets will become firmer. And I swapped out paper towels twice. So every day, the liquid that seeps out of the fish is going to soak through, and you want new paper towels. So now that bowl goes in the fridge, and we're making a simple Ponzu sauce. And this is not a real Ponzu sauce. Real Ponzu, you require yuzu, which is a Japanese citrus, but we're just using limes and dark soy. Now, how much acidity you use really depends on the type of fish. So, as I mentioned, Porgy has pretty high fat content. So this ended up being almost half lime juice to half dark soy sauce. And a little bit of sugar, say a couple teaspoons, and just a splash of sesame oil. And sesame oil is very powerful. Almost anytime you see it in a recipe, you just need a few drops. Okay, and again, everything is to taste. This one happened to be pretty highly acidic, which turned out to be a good complement to the Porgy. Okay, so here I'm making the sushi rice vinegar. And sushi rice is basically cooked short grain rice, and then you mix a vinegar and sugar solution. So I'll leave a link to a good sushi rice recipe. This does take some practice. There's a process of cutting the rice with the vinegar, and you'll see guys fanning it. Look, being a sushi chef requires 5 to 7 years of training. A large part of that is learning how to get the right consistency on the rice. So I am not a sushi chef, and this is one of those sushi type dishes that anyone can make because you're not forming anything into a nigiri, and this is just a base at the bottom of the bowl, so I don't worry as much about texture as I do flavor. Alright, so then now we move on to garnishes. You've seen this before. I'm doing thinly sliced radish and doing a quick pickle with apple cider vinegar and sugar. This is just going to hang out for a bit while we do the other garnishes. And don't go crazy with Pokeball. I've seen some photos when I'm doing some research for this dish. People have just stuffed bowls full of crap. I mean, I'm sure it tastes great, but the star is the fish. And in my opinion, you should have 1 or 2 other main garnishes, and that's it. So there I sliced some scallions, and here I'm toasting some seaweed. So this is nori, and it's pretty lame I'm doing this over an electric stove, but once you toast it, you'll see the color kind of changes into a brighter green, and it becomes crispy. And then you just stack them up and just cut with a pair of scissors, or you can use your knife. And I'm just doing small strips or julienne. And here's a rice. This rice cooker is awful. It is one of these smart rice cookers, and it takes forever. It kind of burns the rice, as you can see. It's just $200 piece of shit. Anyway, a real sushi chef, once again, they're going to use a bamboo type of container to do this rice cutting process. I'm just using a metal bowl. What the bamboo does is it allows more moisture to escape. So what generally happens when people mess up sushi rice is it becomes too soggy. And that's because you're not letting enough steam escape from the rice while you're adding more liquid to it. And I know there's a process of fanning it. I'm not too worried about that for this dish. So once the rice is mixed, I'm just reserving it in a bowl. I don't show this on camera, but I covered it with a damp paper towel. You don't want the outside of the rice to dry out. Okay, so the last thing we're gonna prep is the avocado, and it's the last thing because you don't want it to further oxidize. So apparently I read that avocados send a lot of people to the ER, and yeah, don't cut slices with the avocado in your palm, right? So cut it in half, take the pit out, and then scoop the whole thing out on the cutting board. Now this one turned out to be kind of oxidized around the skin, and you just use your spoon and do the best you can just to scrape off all the brown bits, and it's fine. If anyone has a good tip on selecting avocados, let me know in the comment section, because I have no clue. I get a pretty low yield on perfect avocados. So here I'm just slicing into large dice, roughly the same size as the fish. And you can do a fan, you can do fancy things with avocado, but we're not going to do that. So here's the fish, and now we're going to dress it. So the ponzu sauce goes in, and you want more rather than less sauce. Now the soy sauce component is the only seasoning, so we're not going to add more salt. But yeah, be generous with the ponzu sauce. And then here is some sweet fish roe. This is optional. I happen to see it at the market. And this adds just a little bit of sweetness and umami to the whole thing. Another sauce you can look into is some kind of spicy mayo. I think that will go well with porgy actually, but traditionally you use it for salmon or tuna. And then lastly is the thinly sliced scallion. And that's pretty much it. So we're joined in the kitchen by our friends Renko and Yumi that day, and that's the reason I didn't do live commentary, because we're just hanging out and drinking wine while I'm making this dish. So they're from Japan, they're not Hawaiian, but they ended up approving of this dish, which is always nice. And the final garnish I forgot to mention is just a small plate of pickled ginger and wasabi. And you'll see in the outro my cousin had a big chunk of wasabi. Alright, thanks for watching guys.